Good day, this is Thumbs United. We're doing a creative stream. We're working on photography for quotations. We're working on black and white photography, film photography. It's also with a 35mm camera. It's kind of the standard for good quality film. So yeah, let's get into it. In the previous creative streams, we edited the tone and the exposure and the brightness and the contrast. So now what we're just going to do is we're going to go through and make sure, get rid of any like dust or anything that's on the film. Maybe there's a scratch on the film, but we're going to go through and double check it. And we'll just do it one at a time. We'll probably do 5 or 6 photos, and then we're going to switch over to editing Mass Effect 2, the musical. So we're going to do a little bit of a film restoration and then Mass Effect. And then I'm going to restart the stream so that they're separate streams. But for now, let's get to restoring. So I have the document open up in Photoshop, and then on the right, that's the navigator, so we can see where we are. And on the left, we're gonna be going into the going to see it at the actual size, so pixel for pixel on the screen. And so the red box is where we're editing. So today was a long day. Did a lot of gardening, like a lot. And we have to get like the house ready and stuff. But and there was a branch that fell, and so it fell standing up. Like it was a huge branch, maybe 800 pounds. It was like really heavy. And but the way that it fell, the heaviest part was up in the air, and the light branches were just holding it up straight in the air. And so I took the lawnmower and I was looking for rope to see if we had any, but we didn't. So I took like a garden hose, just a regular rubber hose, and like it's a strong hose, which is why I used it, but I was like, I don't know if this is gonna work. So I tied one end of the hose to the top of the branch, and like it's tall. It was maybe 12 or 14 feet, up. So I just I reached as high as I could and tied it to there. And so then I tied the other end to the back of the lawnmower. It's technically a lawn tractor. It's the difference between a lawnmower and a lawn tractor is that the lawn tractor is still a lawnmower, but it's bigger, and you can like get more attachments for it. So it's more like a utility lawnmower. But so I attached it to the back, and I was like, I was hoping the wheels didn't just spin because it was too heavy. But 2, I didn't want the hose to snap and then me and the lawnmower go flying forward. Or worse, that the hose would snap and then knock me out. But that didn't happen. So I tied it to the end of the lawnmower and the end of the branch, and I gave a little bit of gas, and like I went a considerable like distance, and the hose just stretched and stretched and stretched, and I was like, oh no, it's gonna snap. So I was like, I'm going to go like 3 more inches, and if the branch doesn't fall down, then I'm just giving up. And so I went like 2 inches, and then boom, the branch finally fell over. So I was like, oh, thank goodness. So then once it was on the ground, I went and I found a handsaw in the garage. I couldn't find the one I was looking for, but I found a different one, and it was like all rusted and stuff. And so I took it and I started to cut the branch, and it didn't even cut one branch. It the saw just broke in half. So I was like, oh. So then I ran to Home Depot. Well, first I looked up online because I was like, I don't want to invest in like a crummy saw, if that makes sense. So I went to see the prices, and like for a small saw, I think it was 12-inch. It was like $7, and I was like, that's good. I can afford that. But then I was like, oh, these branches are really, big. So I was like, well, a 12-inch saw is not going to be big enough. So I don't remember the size, but it was either an 18-inch or 20-inch. I think it was a 20-inch saw. And that was the biggest handsaw they had. But it was like $12. And then it ended up being like $14 after tax. And so I bought it, came home, and just went to work. I guess piece by piece I cut it. When I cut it, I was cutting it into the largest pieces I possibly could, because I didn't want to have to make that many trips transporting it back and forth. And the lawn tractor has we have a trailer for it. The lawn tractor actually pulls the trailer, and so I would load up the trailer, and then after I cut all the wood, and just go back and forth and taking it to the place where I was depositing it. And it took forever, and I kind of discovered that like maybe I should do like javelins and like the sport, because like I was throwing these huge pieces of wood, and they were going pretty far. I was throwing it into the woods, but yeah. So that took 6 hours of work, cutting it down. And like there were a couple of times when like the branch that I was cutting, it must have been, so the saw is like 20 inches and the branch was like maybe 15 inches. Like the saw was barely big enough. So I'm really glad I got the bigger handsaw, because if I got the small one, there'd be pieces I still wouldn't be able to cut. And so I just took those big pieces that were like 13 inches or 15 inches in diameter. It was like you'd saw for what felt like forever, then you had to take a break, and eventually you get it done. But it's like, okay, saw it back and forth for like 7 minutes of just grinding away at the wood. So that was kind of my day. And then there were a couple of logs that I was like, I can't possibly do this. And like I almost gave up. And then finally started to make progress. So I was like, you know what? I can't give up. I'm so close to, cutting this last log in half. So I finally got it. But like I was exhausted. And like my arms were shaking and everything. They were like, please, no more. So then I loaded up the last of the branches and put them away. But I mean, the branch was huge. It was like 15 feet tall. And it's kind of sad because the tree lasted forever. The tree didn't fall down. It was just this huge, chunk of a branch that fell. And so it's kind of sad that it's falling apart. So that's kind of what I did for like 6 hours of the day. And the other thing I did was I was trying to install Linux onto my sister's computer. Her hard drive like crashed like really badly, and so she got a new one, and I was like, you know what, I'll take the old one. I asked her, of course. She was like, yeah. So I took it, and then I had a Linux USB stick, and it installs from the USB stick. And so I was like, I wonder if this works out of the box with the Mac. And so I booted. It saw the thumbstick. It loaded Linux. Linux was running super fast. It was like, wow, because like I had used her computer before, and like it was just really slow. But that's because it's a 2011 MacBook Pro, and it only has half the amount of RAM. I think it has 4 gigs of RAM, and it was running the newest operating system. So that's like OS X has gotten kind of bloated, like really bloated. It used to be just super fast on low-end computers. Now it's like low-end computers can barely run it. And so I was like, yeah, install Linux. And so I took out the hard drive and I put in a solid-state hard drive. I technically have 3 solid-state hard drives lying around, but they're all broken. Each one has a sector on it that's damaged, and so it causes the system to kind of crash because it's just waiting for that sector to reply, the operating system, and so it usually causes like a cascade effect where just one process fails, then they all fail, and the whole system locks up. And so that's why I don't use them. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna do a workaround where I will say, like, I have no idea where this sector is, but it's a 32 gigabyte solid state drive. So I'm like, you know what? I'm only going to use 14 gigs of the 32, and I'm going to partition it to not use any of the rest of the hard drive. So like, if I'm lucky, the bad sectors on the solid state drive are in that let's say 32 6. If I'm lucky, the bad sector is in the 18 gigs that I what is the word? The 18 gigs I partitioned to not use. And so the first time it was having problems booting, and then I got it to install, but then it wouldn't boot to the hard drive. It would boot to the USB key to reinstall Linux, but it wouldn't boot to the hard drive. So I was like, So then I gave up, and I was like, you know what? I'll just put on an old copy of OS X, of Apple's operating system. And so I'm doing that now, and it's installing, but it keeps getting stuck, so I might have to restart installing it. But again, it's because the solid state drive has a bad sector, so I think it's just in an endless loop trying to install. So I'm opening up the next image. And so while I had the other solid state, I was like, you know what, I'm going to try to use the other solid state in my Windows PC. So I installed it, and then I did the same thing where I partitioned the majority of the solid state drive to not be used, hoping that the bad sector is in the partition that's not being used. So even though it's a 32 gigabyte not SD card, solid state drive, I'm only using 11 gigabytes, and it's dedicated to Lightroom and Photoshop. So right now Photoshop is using that solid state drive as the cache for what I'm doing now, for editing the photographs and everything. And what's nice is that, like, I can already see that the performance is improved, but like this film is 60 megapixels, and when I do the medium format, it's going to be around 120 to 150 megapixel scans, and in color. And so those files are going to be like 1.2, 1.5 gigabytes each. And so Photoshop's going to need all the help it can get. It's going to need the solid state caching. It's going to need, just a lot of disk space, and I have it dedicated. I have dedicated like I think I ended up doing like 12 gigs of RAM for like Photoshop is allowed to take over 12 gigabytes of RAM of the 16 gigabytes of RAM I have on the system. So all these negatives are a lot cleaner, because as I was scanning it, I would clean the scanner and then actually clean the negative each time I changed the negatives. But then I also I didn't want any thumbprints or anything, because that was kind of the problem we had with the Italy photographs, is like there'd be a giant thumbprint, and so what I did was every time I touched the scanner, I would put on latex gloves, and I was like a surgeon, a doctor of film, and so that's why a lot of these images are cleaner right off the bat and everything. So there's not a lot of work we have to do, but we still have to double check, which is kind of what this is going to be about. We're almost done with this image. A little scratch here. Not too bad. Okay, so good thing we checked the bottom, because there's a few pieces of dust. Okay, we're gonna move to the next one. This next one's a good one. Okay, I'm gonna take a short break. I'll be right back. Okay, so this is the hood of my mom's car. It is it's a Toyota, and like we drove a lot. The school I went to was 52 miles away from our house, so it took about an hour and a half to get there. And as you can imagine, that puts a lot of miles on your car when you're doing it every day. And so when it died, it had over 475,000 miles. Did I say that right? Yeah, I think I did. 475,000, yeah, miles on it, over that. So we definitely got the money's worth out of that car. And like, it was, you know, when it worked well. Like, it was very reliable. I mean, we kept it well maintained. Did all the oil changes, transmission stuff, and there was never like a big, like expensive repair. I think the most expensive thing that happened was something happened to the differential, and so it wouldn't let you. I mean, you could turn, but very slowly. Like, the turn radius was so huge. So we got that fixed. But what happened when it died is we took it in to get repaired, and they said, "Oh, it's, you know, repaired and everything." And then my mom picked it up and was driving home, and then the engine just kind of died, like mid-driving. not mid-driving, she was able to pull over to the road. And so they towed it back to the dealership. And they were like, well, the engine's, gone. And I was like, why didn't they notice this when they fixed it? But, so that's what happened. And again, the car made it to 475,000 miles. And most people, sell their cars when it gets to like 90 or 100,000 miles. Most people's cars die at 100,000 miles. But this car did it over 4 times that amount. There's a little more dust on this image. Gives us something to do. So I highly recommend Toyota. I'm not sure what I'm going to do for my next car. What happened is a tree fell on my Mini Cooper. So I've been saving up to get a new one. Mainly because most people, when they sell their Mini Cooper, they sell it and it has 100,000 miles or so. And nobody really gives up their Mini Cooper. Unless one, they decide to have a family and they need a bigger car. Or two, there's engine problems or something. Because the Mini is a fun car. It fits everywhere. The gas mileage is a little above 30 miles to the gallon. And they're just fun to drive. I wouldn't say they're like sports cars, but they're they're good cars. And they're good everyday cars. And but I want to do a road trip, like a big road trip. Not quite do a road trip for a year, but something like that. So I don't know if I should get a Toyota minivan, or just continue to save up for the Mini and then save up for a different car later. But right now the family car is a Toyota Highlander, and that thing is impressive. That's what has me thinking, maybe I get the replacement Mini Cooper later in life. But then it's kind of funny because I'm in a weird place where now is my time, if that makes sense. Eventually when I'm older and stuff, maybe I'll have kids, who knows, maybe I'm sterile or something. But have kids, and then we're not going to fit in a Mini Cooper. I guess there's plenty of time to get a minivan. But looking for dust. And this is film like I developed myself. I took the photos and then developed it in the lab. There's like this art class you can take, and once you know how to use the lab, you can come in Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays in your own free time and develop as much as you want. And so I took advantage of that. And it's a lot of fun because then you meet other photographers and stuff. It's a nice way to get out of the house, which I need to start doing more often. My plan is to start going to more parks and outdoor stuff in September. Once school starts for the other kids. Haha, suckers. You got the school year. And then I'll start doing that more often. Going in during the day while it's kind of empty. Because I want to, take more photos. I have like a glide cam apparatus I built. It's a combination of a steady cam and a shoulder mount, and so like it works well. So I want to take that to the park and start shooting more kinetic what's the word, films and stuff. Okay, we're getting into a little bit more dust, which is good because we're here to catch it. Oh, speaking of other things we're here to catch, so I was, proofing the Project Park episodes we did earlier, like a couple months ago. They were edited and they were rendering, but I didn't really have time to look at them. So I watched the VR versions and the 3D versions. And I would say 80% of it was perfect. And then 10% failed hard. And the other 10% kind of needs some minor adjustments. But they're easy. And when I first saw like the 10% that hard failed, I was like, this is terrible, that I don't have like the vision I had for this. But I was like, whoa, wait a second. It's only 10% of the video that's not working correctly. It's not that it didn't render correctly. What happened is the GoPro, the 3D system, is two GoPros. They're tethered together, and what they're supposed to do is with the tether, they not only do they take the photo at the exact same time, the 3D photo, but they're supposed to take the same exposure. So the image should be like exactly the same, except one slightly to the left and the other slightly to the right. And so a lot of the photos, not a lot, a few of the photos came out where one image is, a really bright image with the perfect exposure, and then like let's say that's the right camera, then the left camera is like completely underexposed, almost close to being all black, and it's like so that doesn't work at all for 3D. And there is a way you could fix it, but it's not good, and it's just, so what I have to do is I just have to cut out the photos that didn't work. And I was like, this is not, I never had to like re-edit so much. And then I thought about it, I was like, no, I've re-edited a ton of 3D stuff that didn't work out. And in the end I started to feel better about it. I was like, this is You know, what makes it, you know, art. You have to revise it till you get it to being perfect and something you're really happy with. You can't just edit once and then release, you know, to the public. I mean, you have to chisel away at it. And even though it, you know, kind of sucks, because then, you know, yes, you're losing, you know, footage, you're losing content, but you're making the content better, and that's why you cut away the bad stuff. So I was like, huh. And I'm just thinking this to myself, and I was like, well, I guess it is part of the process. I just thought I was closer to being done with those videos, and I was like, nope, gotta re-edit those. So I'll probably re-edit those offline, because all I really have to do is like compare the video, the render, to the edit, and then I just delete the bad footage, and then I have to shift everything over, all the animations and everything for the photography, but that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Several pieces of dust, and there's several scratches. But the good news is that the VR editions, when the VR and the 3D, because the VR is in 3D, when it worked very well. And it was like, wow. Like looking around and everything, it was impressive. And I just viewed it on my phone using an app, and the video was, you know, it was only HD. With VR, you really need 4K and above. See, I don't know what these are. I think they're supposed to be in the photo. I don't know. I'm kind of take away from the photo, so we're going to take them out, because they look like dust even though they might not be. Yeah, I think it's like a handprint. More dust. Oh, and I should say that the VR, it is with head tracking, unlike Project Newfoundland, which is, it's more like, Project Newfoundland is a 3D film series that's compatible with VR, if that makes sense. You can use VR to play 3D movies. And so that's why Project Newfoundland doesn't have head tracking, which is like when you turn your head to the left and then you see things on your left or the right. It's a stationary movie. So when you view a 3D movie in VR, it's like you're sitting in a theater, you know, with the perfect seat. And I like 3D movies in VR better than actually at the movies or with a 3D monitor. One is cheaper. like a good pair of VR goggles costs $18, and you can get them on Amazon. But it's just there's less distortion. Like with the passive glasses, you have to be sitting in the exact right place, and then it works great. With active shutter, they're flickering a lot, and that can give you a headache and stuff. And it makes the image darker, a lot darker than normal. And so with VR, because it's, you know, going straight to your eyeballs, it's like a direct connection to your brain. A lot of the, you know, bad things about 3D with the passive and the active shutter is not there. The kind of downside is if you want to view the 3D videos at full native resolution, which is 1080p to the left eye and 1080p to the right eye, then you need a phone or VR goggles with a minimum resolution of 4K. So that part kind of sucks, because most, like the iPhone, still only has a 1080p screen. It's like, seriously? The good news is like the Note from Samsung. That one has I think it's like a 2.7 or 2.5K display. So there are options, and I'm sure there are Android phones that do have 4K, and will let you display a video at that resolution. So on YouTube at Photations, the VR editions are released with in 4K, and so it has the left camera at full 1080p and the right camera at full 1080p, and then like you can just put it in like the VR goggles for your cell phone. You don't need an app. You can just use YouTube, or you can use the web browser to access YouTube, and you can view the 3D VR there. Okay, now we're gonna move to the next one. And we've done 1, 2, 3. So this next one will be the last one we do for tonight. I wanted to stream an hour of film restoration, and then we're going to take a short break, like 5 or 10 minutes. I'm going to pause, I'm going to end the stream, and then I'll come back and we will edit Mass Effect 2, the musical, and we'll be doing that for the rest of the night. Edit in Photoshop, and ta-da. Okay, so I can already see there's a little bit of issues with this photograph, just in terms of dust and all that stuff. And it looks like there's some kind of distortion here, so we're gonna have to get rid of that. It's kind of a zebra-ing from I have to get comfortable. My hand keeps falling asleep, and it's because of my elbow. And the way it hits the table, just puts my whole arm to sleep. It's kind of like it's hitting the funny bone, but instead of like a large shock, it's just, you know, your hand gets numb. Yeah, so there's definitely a lot more dust to deal with. I couldn't decide if that was like things I should be erasing or actually part of the image. Over here it's easy. You can just kind of see the scratches and stuff. So we're about halfway done now. It's moving along. There are less and less problems the further we go down. Ooh, but then there's this one. Then it is a thumbprint. It must be a thumbprint from developing. So just get rid of my thumbprint. I don't want you guys framing me for like crimes or something. This next one is not a thumbprint. It's like aliasing from the film and the scanner. about 2/3 done. Gotta make sure to save it. Don't want my computer explode and then have nothing left over. Okay, almost done. Almost done. So I'm gonna end the stream for like 5 or 10 minutes, and then I'll be back online with the Mass Effect 2 Let's Play. Not Let's Play. Mass Effect 2, the musical. We're gonna be editing, so it's still gonna be creative, but we're just gonna be switching over to video editing. So hang around if you want to. I'll be right back. It'll be like 10 minutes.